Simply Cabinetry hits the franchisor hot seat. Coming up next. I've talked to you guys so much over the last few weeks, so I feel like this is repetitive, but I promise once we get past the scripted question, everything else will be good. But thanks for joining us. Question one, whoever wants to take it. How did you guys accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise story?
Well, I mean, we've always kind of wanted to do it over the years, but we've never really had the resources in order to be able to do that. And obviously having some sort of system that's like repetitive and duplicable and being able to ship nationwide, we finally were able to become like a brand that was able to get recognition nationwide and become with the national brands. And so it's just having that buying power and that ability to be able to share what we're doing with other people. We just wanted to decide how we were going to go bigger. And that kind of was one of our.
Yeah. And I think to hit the nail on the head, it's really about the simplicity, right? It was about simplifying the model. There's just, in our industry, it's a vortex of a lot of shiny objects, and it's really up to us to kind of clear that path and trailblaze these entrepreneurs into that successful journey. So,
yeah.
So business is 15 years old?
Yep. We've been doing this for 15 years, started out of our garage, kind of grown it to this point, and we were trying to decide how we want to go further. And this is kind of
we kind of hit the ceiling. We have 3 kids. We had 3 units, and we got to a point where that kind of made sense to us. That's enough to handle, and we had more gas in the tank, and we wanted to figure out how we could, empower other people to do what we do.
And we have a great team that like takes care of our 3 corporate locations, and we're kind of on top of the business now, and we just want to start elevating and going to the next level and helping other people do what we've done.
Just for clarity, you're not going to keep the same pace of kids to units as you grow.
No,
I'm done with kids.
Yeah.
3 boys is enough.
That door is closed.
Yeah.
Okay, so 15 years of doing this, you're obviously building something as you go. At what point in that journey you said always thought about franchising, but at what point is it actually logistical to now start thinking about it?
Yeah, it was really to the point where we started making brand awareness in our industry, and then people coming to us about becoming a national brand and like being able to, facilitate and getting that buying power and those agreements with the vendors, and being able to ship nationwide. And, it just really made sense, because anybody opening up their own showroom, they're not going to have the buying power that we have, and the simplicity of what we offer to the people. So
yeah, and it's really taking that 15 years of experience and just applying that, moving forward. And there's so many lookalike markets like ours. Our business model is really not unique to our specific territory. There's everybody in the United States, I would hope, has a kitchen, or needs a kitchen. So it's kind of a necessity. So we're just applying that to different markets is really what's next for us.
I feel like every time I talk to you, I have another comment on what you guys need to do from a position standpoint. But Diana, you just talked about the national infrastructure of basically you've now have this access to all of these different lines of service and product. In my opinion, like I while you're saying that, I reopened up your website and it says powering success through ownership. But if the trigger was people saying, ooh, I want to start tapping into the network that you built, it's almost like that needs to be a part of your positioning that you're selling, is we've built the infrastructure and resources that taps into all of the resources that you need to localize it at your level. So if I were you, I would play back what you just said in the words that you just said it, because I think there's an insight there in the way that you should be positioning this, at least on a franchise standpoint.
There's just so many advantages as it pertains to what we do, because we are unique in the space that we're in and the franchise space, because we're a model where it's just like 1 to 2 people, a small showroom, runs a whole territory, and it's just like you don't have to manage subs, you don't have to do all this like construction, the liability, all that stuff. It's really just like the showroom and building connections. So it's just unique.
Yeah, Nick, really one of the things that like a lot of franchisees or potential candidates come to us and they ask that question, what do I get out of this, right? And there's just so many benefits. It's hard to really pinpoint. Like you just touched on one, the networking thing. and how empowering that just specific thing is. But there's so many other things, just, you know, all the things we've done wrong, and we're, you know, cleaning that up so people don't follow those same footsteps, or just the simplicity of the model, or even something as little as our CRM system, where, you know, it's capturing all that data, giving those data points back to us, letting us market to them. It's just so many different benefits, and it's crazy just how
I would buy it if it was 15 years ago.
Looking back, it would have been a no-brainer, right? If somebody had already paved the way for us.
Well, maybe that's the insight, a 15-year overnight success story. Because like if you show like
Jumpstart, right?
look at the bumps and bruises that we had to take to build this infrastructure. Because I think like again, like if I took your messages, business ownership, limitless creativity, lifestyle freedom, like I could take that and put it on a pizza brand or a burger brand, and what you guys have done together, because it's the culture that you guys have cultivated with the two of you on manufacturing, an outlet to help build the wealth and the dream that you guys have set out as business operators. But then it's also what people get to tap in. And then your comment there, if this was available 15 years ago, I would have bought into it. Yeah. That's a cool North Star of what you guys are following. Like, we got to keep making this better. Mm-hmm. I think about, I mean, there's plenty that keeps me up at night as it relates back to our business, whether it's like, we have something so special. Why have we not grown at the pace? And the reality is it's all bullshit. Like everything that keeps a business owner awake at night is bullshit, as long as your doors are open. But what, like after you made the decision to franchise your business, what keeps you guys up at night when it relates back to growing or franchising your business?
It's making sure we have every tool possible to make a franchisee successful. You know, so we've been really honing in on like our training, and we're start building this whole huge LMS system that has, I don't know how many lessons and courses, and actually even like creating our own custom chatbot internally for staff members to ask quick and efficient questions for their problems or anything that they might come arise. So it's really just building the efficiencies and the simplicities of the model and making sure that our whole business follows that. And it goes through what they say, like that looking glass of our mission and our vision and our culture, you know, and making sure that all happens. And, you know, over the past year and a half, we've really like honed in on investing and making sure that all those efficiencies are in place for our franchisees.
Yeah. And I would take that from a different angle. I think it's really partnering with the right people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think we've had this conversation before where, you know, these other, you know, we want to find like-minded people like ourselves, you know, people that have, you know, the energy and have the passion for the industry, right? And have, you know, and have that willingness, you know, to invest in themselves, or, you know, to give them their all, right? So that's really what's in it for us, you know. We've even turned away some people that we've thought, you know, they're just not the right fit. You know, they're looking at it from the wrong approach, or, you know, and I think that's what keeps me up at night. You know,
just sometimes making sure we find the right ones, you know, so then they're successful, and we want to make sure, you know, what we're presenting to them, they take advantage of, and just are as successful as possible, because you know, one of the, you know, scariest things is like setting all this up and then making sure, you know, people are putting their lives on the line by doing this. So they're taking out loans on their homes, and it's just like, we want to make sure that we're providing as much as possible for them. So I guess it's like we're on the same wavelength. He's just thinking about it in a different direction, but which is funny because he's more on the operation side of things and I'm more on the culture. So you would have thought it would have been opposite.
No, it's yin and yang. We talked about that too. My wife's the operator and I'm the culture. So it's like, that's how it works. So what I'm hearing though, isn't what's keeping you up at night isn't like, how are we going to go sell or award that first franchise? It's more so feeling like, did we check off enough of the boxes to make this a viable franchise for them? Am I articulating that right?
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously finding those franchisees, but it's just at the same token, you know, when we go to all these franchise events and everything, it's just always talking about finding the right fits for your business, you know, and it might take longer to find our franchisees, but then if it makes our lives easier in the end and we show more success story later on, it's way more important to make sure that we're finding the right ones to begin with.
Yeah, I love that statement. I mean, the reality is, and you can see that in a franchise world that's been overtaken by franchise consultants and brokers, Like it's like, oh, we're going to find the right fit, but they're in the business of selling franchises. And I think for a buyer has to cut through the clutter. They got to get through the not using a franchise consultant. They got to have found your business. Like that drumbeat has to be loud enough to guide that organic candidate over to you. But if they can find you and they listen to those words you just said, then that value is going to be scaffolding on them as a business operator that will allow them to potentially reach the successes that they want. So,
yep, exactly.
Yeah, Nick, I'm really big into analogies, and my thing is like Dinah's saying, you know, we can create the toolbox, right? We can put the most powerful tools in that toolbox, but the flip side to that is we need that, you know, the person that's handling those tools to not only know what those tools are, to take full advantage of those tools and know how to use those tools. So that's, like I said, that's where we're at. We're, you know, just trying to balance those two things.
That's a tough, like if you think about business operators, like for you guys or for me, like on day one, we have to be an expert in HR, labor relations, supply chain management, marketing, website, like that's what it looks like. For a franchisee, all those things are at least established from a foundational element that you get to come in and start learning and selling. Like you got to develop the relationship in the local market, but finding the person that said, like, especially in a world where we sell absentee business operators or win the $1 billion lottery, you're also looking for a needle in the haystack because you're looking for someone that's like, yeah, I'm willing to get my hands dirty. I know that I have to work hard to grow my business. I know that it's not going to overnight make magical money, you know?
Yeah. You get out what you put in, right? And it's just like, if you're putting enough in, you're going to get enough out.
Let's shift into the brand. I like establishing the culture side, which obviously gets established on question one. On question two, is now that someone's like, okay, I'm bought into who you guys are as humans, what do you do?
You taking that one?
No, you can take it.
So we design and sell cabinetry. Think of it like kind of like the Sherwin-Williams model, where it's just we are that partner with builders, contractors, developers. It's like a B2B2C model. But we build those relationships with those industry professionals, flippers, real estate investors. And we help be a part of their business, the contractors, builders, and then we make those connections, and then they refer their clients to us to then design and sell their cabinetry. And it goes factory direct from the manufacturer to the end consumer. So we're really about building those relationships, designing the spaces. It's more spatial planning because we do work with like interior designers and that sort of thing. But it's more on the spatial planning and building those relationships in our showrooms.
Yeah, and it's not only creating the culture, you know, within the organization, it's also creating that culture within the community, because we are, you know, the partner of these other businesses. They're relying on us just as much as we're relying on them. And then also in the community, you know, whether that's some of our partner networks, whether that's, you know, painters or appliance companies or countertop fabricators, like all of those people. Again, we create that culture of other business models as well. So
yeah, and it's all about making those connections, because if the painter's in that day talking about doing this, then they could say, oh, well, Simply Cabinetry. It's all about that referral business. But what we do have is there are showroom and design studios is what we call them. They're 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. 2 to 3 people can run a showroom, and that's a territory. So in the showroom and design studios, we have what we call a simple, premium, and luxury, which is a stock, semi-custom, and custom cabinetry. That kind of divides up based on budget, availability, and customization. So it kind of grows from there. And each space is designed and curated, so then you really know where you're at and what you're looking at. So then you can kind of almost self-shop. Obviously, we have the people here to help you shop, but it's all telling a story so you understand where you're at. Nothing's more difficult than having a client come in when you're in a showroom and they are like a kid in a candy store and they're going everywhere and picking out the most expensive stuff, but then they can't afford it. But if everything's labeled in the showroom correctly, then people really know what they're looking at, and it's easier to have that conversation later because they chose it. And then we get into our design studio, which you can kind of see behind us, where we break down the cabinetry, where it's the door styles, the wood species, the paint color is available. So it really breaks everything down because each person kind of learns differently about different things. So it's just, this really breaks it down. Some people love to come into design studio and really see the spaces, the product broken down and build it themselves. Some like to see it in the showroom where, everything's kind of already put together and they can envision it a little bit better. So
do you want your franchisees being the face of the community, and are you guys helping on the design aspect, or talk to me about a day in the life of a franchisee is?
Yeah, so essentially the franchisees is going to be the owner operator. So they're the ones that are going to be, day to day running the showroom. They have a lead management associate that handles all the leads that walk in the door, that gives tours of the showroom. They're the ones that schedule appointments with the franchisee to then design their spaces, put together projects. The franchisees, they do some spatial planning. They obviously need to know something about what they're talking about when they do talk with the clients. But we are offering, internal design services. So because it can get really busy in a showroom. Our one showroom is in Warrington, Pennsylvania, and it's in a Home Depot and Avalon carpet shopping center. And it's just, when you have a lot of leads, we want those franchisees, or what we call managing designers, to really be the face of the business and being making those connections rather than in the back of the office sitting there designing. So we do offer some design services. If they more want to handle it on their internal team, there is a design assistant that they could get, but there's a couple different options based on their abilities.
Okay. Let's hit on the investment. Every franchise buyer is going to ask this. What does it cost to get in, and what do you report in item 19?
So our investment is $295 to $376. That's the 3 months of operating costs, franchise fee, and that sort of thing. So.
And are you making an earnings claim in item 19?
We are not currently. Previously, all of our locations were under one roof, and then we've just actually recently broken them apart, really to get a definitive idea for the franchisees eventually of what each location does. But currently, we do not have that.
Has that been a stumbling block for franchisees or
not really? Nobody's even really asked it, to be honest. But I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years. Obviously, we're doing it for a reason. We're franchising, so
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and I have many opinions on an item 19, but it kills me when someone comes in and says, well, what's the average? I'm like, you're asking if you could be average in this brand?
Yeah.
Why am I going to say yes to you? But it doesn't give the whole picture, because it depends on the marketplace, and obviously you got to build up your inventory, but you're given a blueprint to get into an industry that is obviously attractive. And obviously you're looking for the cultural fit on day one. So
we started this in 07, 08 and did a downturn of the market. So it's we've already kind of proven the model ever since 15 years ago when we were in a recession. It is a recession-proof. You're working with that builder the business to business. So it's just, having that slew of clientele as it pertains to the business, repeat business, repetitive business, that referral business that just keeps you alive, and you just keep having that referral business. And when it's so much easier to sell to a referral than to sell to somebody that's just walking off the street, so having those business to business model where they're just referring you, it's just so much easier to sell to them at that point.
Well, I think it's important to note your guys' growth strategy is also concentric circles. So if you find the right buyer, franchisee, they're going to be within a rock throw of you, meaning they're going to be able to tap into your networks, which should help them get off the ground anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, our locations right now, we've kind of grown organically. Somebody lives here, we opened up a location. We're actually really tight right now. So a franchisee would have almost our whole territory for our 3 stores.
Yeah.
So even if we did have our item 19, technically those locations should almost be doing as much as our 3 stors. So
even with that, we have little market share in our current territory. There's so much opportunity out there as
especially as it pertains to be an extension of other businesses. When you're sitting here competing with the 1,000 contractors in your area to try to get the bid for the installation and everything, why not be an extension of those 1,000 contractors and not competing with them, and being their partner in the business model?
Yeah. Let's hit on the vision. Obviously, you guys have built a successful business. So franchising or not, you guys have accomplished something tremendous. Where do you see things going, say, in the next year or so?
The next year or so, what do you think?
I think we need a couple signed up, a couple in the pipeline, a couple looking for locations, you know.
We want to grow organic or not. We want to grow quickly, but the right way. So we're not looking to rush into these franchisees or anything like that. So right now we're looking to be more territorial, as it's in like the Northeast areas.
And like you said, just share a lot of the connections. So we're not re-engineering a lot of that. We can just, you know, spread our current connections to new franchises.
But we're hoping within the next couple of years, we're starting to go more nationwide after we get a couple of under our wing, and just growing this and confirming like we've put everything in place that we need in place to be able to make everybody as successful as possible.
Out of curiosity, is there a good bolt-on business that would be like a real estate agent buying into this that has a built-in pipeline? Is there categories that you're like, that this would be a perfect next business for X people?
Yeah, I think a lot of it sales, you know, anything in sales. You know, we've had people from pharmaceutical sales. We've looked at people from, what else? Oh, real estate sales, you know. So yeah, sales is definitely like high up there, because
especially when in the real estate, you obviously have some sort of passion for it. And it's all about putting your feet on the ground and like trying to make those connections. And that's what like real estate agents or even pharmaceutical sales, like that's what you know how to do.
Right.
But it's all about having that background and that ability and that grunt to be able to get out there and make those connections and go to these events and everything. That really like kind of sets the people apart that we'd be looking for, because that's harder to teach than it is to teach design. Like I can teach you the spatial planning easily. It's just teaching you the ability to sell and to network
and build connections and get your foot in the door and all that kind of stuff. Business
is not for the faint of heart, but we just make it easier, right? it is something that you put the effort in, you know, and it's not like all of a sudden there's that smoking gun that just, you know, you blow up just because you open, you know, you still have to put the effort in, but we show you the effort to put in to make it efficiently successful.
Out of curiosity, the breakdown of new construction versus an upgrade to a home, do you guys have some sort of sense on that?
So in our specific market, our bread and butter is all remodeling, you know, or, you know, somebody doing an addition or, you know, finishing a basement or something like that. So yeah, I would say the majority of our traffic comes that way, because again, in our community, it's a lot of general contractors. These are guys who are doing roofing, siding, windows, doors, decks, basements. And then when they get to that, you know, the kitchen portion, that's when they hand that lead over to us and say, hey, you know, Mrs. Jones really wants to do her kitchen. Can you walk her through the process? Let me know what you guys come up with. At that point, I'll submit my bid and close this deal. And again, a lot of times we're working hand in hand with these contractors to close the deal. We excite Mrs. Jones on that kitchen remodel. Of course, then that contractor has a higher probability of closing that overall package. So
yeah, I would say like the new construction is usually anywhere from maybe like 10 to 15% of our business.
Out of curiosity, have you moved to outdoor kitchens too?
We get that here and there. There's not a huge market for it. You know, and again, even like when it comes to garage cabinets, I mean, we've done garage cabinets here and there, but the cabinetry costs the same whether you're putting it in the kitchen or the garage. And it's a specific type of product that you really want for that. It's just a little different animal.
Yeah, let me touch on that a little bit. So one of the things we built into our system is what we call boutique brands. So in each market, you know, let's say if we're opening up a unit in Lancaster and, you know, Amish built cabinets are a big selling point there, we've created a category within our space where we can cater to that local market. So even though like the mainstream of what we do is educating clients on cabinetry in general, you know, depending on the specific market, we can take and utilize that and leverage ourselves to apply those same principles to that local community. And again, like Miami might be really sleek, frameless, you know, modern cabinetry, you know, that might not be our bread and butter here in the Philadelphia market, but again, having that outlet for.
And we understand the trends as it relates to certain areas. You know, we have access to all the data and information. So,
well, that's part of that circles all the way back to the beginning statement. Like the fact that you built the infrastructure to be able to expand into any market and let the product be specific to that area of the United States, an asset that eventually will pay dividends later on. So,
yeah.
Yeah, this is this is awesome stuff. I mean, I love the category. I think you've kept the cost down to get into a retail marketplace. You've spent an exhaustive amount of hours preparing this for franchisee one. So check marks are there. Now we just got to find franchisee one.
Yeah, if I could piggyback off that a little bit, I think one of the things too to consider is we're in a fragmented business model, right? There's no real leaders in our space. And that's what we're trying to apply the principles of what we've learned over the last 15 years and give that to somebody else. That is, if we can work as a group, share best practices and create a whole community that's all powering this in the same direction, that's really what we're focused on.
Because it's a small investment. I mean, not small investment, but it's a smaller investment for a retail location. But that initial investment's really like your only main investment other than your rent and your staff, because you only purchase what you've already sold. So it's not like you're sitting here inventorying product or anything. So
that's it. Well, I love what you guys have done. I look forward to seeing where the story goes. Lots of good stuff here. So thanks for doing this. Thanks for
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on your show.
Of course. Another episode of Meet the Zor. And we're done.